Okay. All right, good evening, everyone. Let's go ahead and get started with our May 28th Waynesboro Area School District Board of Directors. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So let's start with roll call. We know we have Ms. Zimmerman via Zoom, so let's go ahead with roll call.
Dr. Royer,
Here.
Mr. Marvin,
Here.
Mr. Hamburger,
Here.
Mrs. Miles,
Here.
Mrs. Fortney,
Here.
Mr. Pence,
Here.
Mrs. Zimmerman. Mrs. Zimmerman, can you mouse squeak so we can hear you?
Yeah, is there, oh,
I'm gonna go ahead on. Mrs. Straight. Here. Mr. Smith,
here.
Mrs. Zimmerman.
Okay. We'll come back. Okay.
Mhm.
Right, let's see. Before we get started with the approval of the agenda, we have to elect a board, the election of a treasurer tonight. We have to elect a treasurer. So at this time, I would like to open the floor for nominations for board treasurer.
Nominate Patty Straight.
Okay, any other nominations? So Patty Strite is nominated for board treasurer. And since there are no other, can I get a motion and a second to close the nominations for board?
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded to close board treasurer nominations. All those in favor of closing nominations for board treasurer should vote yay. Those opposed should vote nay.
Yay.
Aye. Okay. So all of those in favor of Patty Strite for board treasurer, say yay.
Yay.
Any opposed? Okay. So Patty Strite is elected board treasurer to fill a one-year term ending on June 1st, 2025. Welcome and thank you. Please. Thank you in advance. Serving
Got
as
a light
treasurer.
body, you keep it.
For serving as treasurer. Okay, let's move on to approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion
So
for
moved.
approval of agenda?
Second.
Okay. Any questions, additions, or subtractions? Okay. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we move to approval of the minutes from the May 14th meeting. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any
I'm
opposed?
sorry. Sorry about that. I was waiting for votes to come in. What was the first for that, for the approval?
I
of
move to
minutes?
approve.
I apologize. And the second?
Patty.
Yeah. Right, so any questions about previous minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm the wrong person to proofread.
Mhm. Okay, now we move to the superintendent's report, Dr. Sternheim.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So I want to thank Dr. DeShawn for help facilitating the meeting last time. My voice is back. I'm not sure how many people are excited about that, though. So anyway, we have so much to celebrate. We're in the process of cutting checks for families who sought reimbursement from the $75,000 grant that we were able to receive through dual enrollment. So special thanks to the WASH's admin as well as the business office for taking care of those details. We're in the last final days. Our learners are enjoying field days as well as field trips. WAMS learners visited Wilson College as well as Hagerstown Community College, as well as 20 additional businesses as part of their adventures in learning. The WASH's prom, Alexis, are you gonna talk about that? Okay, Alexis, I want to make sure I don't steal your thunder. The prom was a big success. The theme was boho disco. And it was held at Penn State Mont Alto. Senior walk is on Thursday. And we also will be celebrating the baccalaureate ceremony by the senior class as well as the officers at the Oyer Auditorium, and graduation is on Friday. Awards assembly was held last week or the week before last week, perhaps. $150,000 worth of scholarship money was awarded to our learners. I also had the privilege of attending the Career Tech Senior Recognition Day, as well as the scholarships they awarded there. I was there to present the Rotary Award. So big congratulations to our learners at Career Tech as well. And all board members are invited to our celebration day on Friday at 8 o'clock at Washes, where we will be honoring our retired faculty and staff.
Thank you very much. No public comment tonight. Okay. So we move to student board report. Alexis?
Hello, everybody. We had a long weekend this past week with Memorial Day on Monday, which was exciting to have a long weekend right before school ends. Graduation for the class of 24 is Friday, May 31st at 6:30 p.m. We wish luck to all the graduates. Congratulations to Jada Krieger and True Brenstoff, who competed in the PIAA State Track and Field Meet this past weekend in Shippensburg University. The class of 26 is going on a field trip tomorrow to DC, and they will be visiting the zoo and the Smithsonian. Also, congratulations to our baseball team who is in their postseason playoffs. I think today they're going to Wilson. I know it's happening at 4:30, so I'm not sure where they're at with that so far. They did. Okay.
Oh.
Well, sorry to them, but they got really far, so that's glad. Our last day of school is this upcoming Thursday, which we'll be doing a field day, which consists of like going to the YMCA, Otterbein, playing games with everybody, and just having a fun day. And that's everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexis. And let's move to board reports. Anything from the policy committee?
Policy committee was canceled and it will be scheduled on the June 8th, it was scheduled June 18th.
Mhm.
Is that correct? The June meeting is canceled for June 6th, and it will be on June 18th from 1 to 3.
Okay, thank you. Academic committee,
We have not met since the last meeting.
facilities?
Facilities met last week. Our next meeting will be actually in July. And that's where we're gonna check in on a lot of our summer projects. So things that we have on the docket, hopefully starting next week after students have left and teachers are getting ready to leave for the summer. The big project is the WAMS asbestos project. So that is getting ready to kick off in the next couple of weeks. And so that will go through the summer. There's a couple of odds and ends that need to be taken care of, but that project is getting ready to kick off. One of the things that we approved, I forget if it was last meeting or meeting before, is the installation of the final Fairview playground equipment. The super twirler thing. There you go. That'll happen this summer as well. So that's exciting for them to have that completed. And then if you've noticed, there's been a space by the middle school that has been prepped, but nothing's been there yet. That is for the new weather station that Penn State is going to install this summer as well. So those are things that are on the docket for the summer. Dr. Holtzman and his team have 4 grant applications in process. So While we are always hopeful that we'll receive something, those are, again, grant applications. So it's not a guarantee that we'll receive those funds. And then, just because of the way things are scheduled, we're starting to actually prep for next summer, for 25 projects. So, one of the things, the next two items are both in the discussion phase. It's the what needs to be done and how much will it cost phase. So those are the Wham's gym and the surrounding area. And the second is elementary accessibility. Are kind of the two big projects that we are starting to discuss as well. One of the things that is being put on hold until next summer is the North Bridge. There was a bit of a delay in receiving back the final kind of engineering like bid specs. That is at minimum a 2-month project, and we need that bridge open. So since we just received them, it was kind of deemed it's a little late in the game to try to get that done this summer, because we would have to put it out the bid. On a short time frame, we'd probably have to pay a premium, and we didn't think we can still use the bridge. It's still walkable, still using for students to cross. So we figured it's better just to put this off until next summer, and put it out the bid in January, February of next year. So that is kind of what we have on the docket for facilities. So a lot that is happening. This is kind of one of our summers, our busy season for facilities.
Okay, budget?
Budget did not meet since last meeting. Our plan is to potentially go on break for the summer, pending what happens later on in this meeting. So our budget is on the docket for discussion and action. And so I'll save any further comments till we get to that line.
Okay, thank you. Right, move to personnel. First item of business, Dr. DeShawn?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, we have a number of folks here. We are seeking your approval for. We have 2 professional resignations. Daniel Lattimore and Megan Diller. We appreciate the time that they spent with us here at Waynesboro School District. We also are seeking your approval for James E. Norris's retirement. He has spent 12 years of service to the district as an electrician and maintenance staff. We also have 2 support staff resignations. We appreciate the time that they were with us. We have a reappointment from a special education para to some other duties there with transportation. Another support staff appointment as a para educator at Maury. We're also seeking approval for grade level coordinators, K through 5. They're the same folks except our 3rd grade, Joanna Alspal. She stepped up to be our 3rd grade. Our other candidate had some family, children, and but we appreciate those folks stepping up to take that role. We have 2 appointments for the wrestling coaches. We're seeking your approval for Casey Glunt as the head varsity wrestling coach. For those of you who know, Casey is also at Police Academy right now and has been on staff he'll be a police officer here with district. And then Jesse T. Moen as the assistant varsity wrestling coach. 2 ESY staff folks. And then we're seeking your approval for 2 professional staff appointments. One being Christine Metcalf as our instrumental music teacher and band director at grades 6 through 8. Our folks went through, we want to thank all our music folks. We had a lot of music folks. We had people coming back for 2nd, 3rd round interviews and really great qualified candidates. Christine Metcalf just got the edge with some of her skills and talents and abilities. She's coming to us actually from the Tuscarora School District, I believe. So we appreciate, we're seeking your approval for her. And then for math over at Wash's, this young man's been through a couple interviews too with myself, Dr. McCallum, some others, replacing Katrina Wareham's contract, and that would be Aiden Bogelin. So.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So the motion is to approve personnel as listed.
Approve.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And Dr. DeShawn, I guess student waiver?
Yes, you guys have the waivers there and, put some information in the Friday four about there. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but we're seeking your approval for those student waivers.
Okay, so motion to approve student waiver.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we move to our list of 2024 graduates.
Yeah, there they are. They're there for your, approval. They have met all the requirements set forth, by the state and, at Waynesboro School District. And we thank everybody who has got them to this point, administrators, teachers, et cetera, school board members for all your support. So seeking your approval for this, list of, 2024 graduates.
Wow. So a motion is to approve the list of the 2024 WASH's graduates.
Move to approve.
Second.
Comments? Questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I want to double check. Because I haven't heard any votes from her so far, so I'm putting in that she's not present for the vote. I don't want to put her vote in when I can't hear her.
Right, that's fine. Yeah.
She was connected and now her phone is off, so I'm not sure. She was going to try to connect via her other computer, but I don't know if she has yet or not.
Okay, thank you.
Um, She didn't want to interrupt. I did tell her how to mute and unmute herself on her cell phone. But like I said, that did go offline now, so I'm not completely sure.
Can she use one of the little emojis to kind of indicate that she's voting? Yeah, and I think, doesn't it one go up, one go down or something? One of the little emojis there on Zoom.
Yeah, it's down under the reactions.
Yeah, so,
She is not reacting at this point.
okay, all right, well,
I'll give her another call because was trying to connect via her cell phone, so I can't talk to her while she's trying to do that, unfortunately.
yep, we'll keep
Texting her,
moving.
she's not
Mhm.
responding.
All right, we did the vote on the ground.
The way she just responded.
Okay, all right, let's move to our fit days for 24-25 school year.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So with the help with from Dr. DeShawn as well as some WASD teachers, I've completed the application form that we are required to submit to PD to use up to 5 FID days during the 2024-25 school year. Currently, we have 3 snow days. My recommendation is that we submit the application. It does need to be voted on and the information needs to be sent to PDE. Just so essentially we would have that opportunity. If you recall, the state has changed the requirements to hours, not simply days. So I still believe wholeheartedly, even though FID days aren't the most popular across the board, that it is a better opportunity to do those rather than adding days into the end of the school year. But fortunately, we have 3 snow days built into the calendar. So recommendation is to approve the application of the FID days.
Okay, we have someone is first,
approve.
second, okay. Any questions?
Any follow-up done? I remember, because where there was the survey that was not
Yeah,
very well.
so, interestingly enough, I had reached out to admin and they had recommended that I wait for the second FID day. We never had a second FID day. So in preparation for next school year, we could look at how we can refine the process, moving forward. I believe for the most part, it is something that is relatively well received by the secondary teachers as well as the secondary learners. Elementary tends to be a little more challenging, so we're gonna have to continue to work through that process.
You remind me, Dr. Sternheim, I believe you moved the built-in snow days till after the new year?
That is correct.
Okay, so all 3 snow days are after the new year then?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
and we're in an awkward situation this year. We have a very long winter break. And then Easter is not nearly as long, but they have the PSSA testing like right backed up onto Easter at this point. So we don't have a lot of wiggle room there. So we have used inclement weather days as early as September in the past, if there's been like I think it was Hurricane Sandy. I would have a better gauge probably, by around Christmas time in terms of what the plan is. And we will continue to seek feedback in terms of how to refine the process. This is going to allow us just the opportunity to do so. Ultimately, depending on when that snow day falls, if it's late enough in the year and we essentially do have our hours in, we may be able to give our learners a day off. The teachers would still be required to do professional learning on that day, but any rate, I'd like to cross that bridge when we come to it. I appreciate your support.
Okay. Yep, any more questions? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Hey,
So we move to agreement for Yellow Breaches Educational Center.
Okay, so this is just a preliminary agreement. At this point, we do not have a learner at this particular location. However, by signing the agreement, we would be permitted to perhaps re-enroll a learner that had attended Yellow Breaches earlier this school year. So it's essentially reserving the spot, but right now it's simply an agreement.
Okay, so a motion is to approve the agreement with Yellow Breaches Educational Center. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And now we move to the agreement with the school district to participate in the Franklin County Consortium for elementary services with New Story.
So this is an example of the partnership that we've developed with the other school districts within Franklin County. New Story will be providing services for 24 learners. Essentially, this is our agreement that allows us to have our learners enroll with the program if we need. At this point, we do not have any students slated for this, but this will allow us the opportunity if that need would arise.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the agreement with the consortium, Franklin County Consortium. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Questions? Any questions?
Where is this will we be transporting our learners to this if we have
This-
any?
This particular group will be at Lurgan Elementary in the Chambersburg School District.
Lots here, I'm sorry, I missed it.
That one has 24
24.
among all 5 districts.
53,000 a student.
And this is for elementary. And this is for students who would have the autism diagnosis.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next, we move to the agreement with the high school to participate in the Chambersburg Area School District NCJORTC program. Back to, oh, did we?
There's a River Rock, there's another.
Oh,
one.
sorry, another consortium.
It looks
Okay.
very, very similar, but
Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so next, this is the agreement agreement for the school district to participate in the Franklin County Consortium for elementary services with River Rock. All right,
so again, this is for elementary students. It's a consortium with the other schools in Franklin County. This would be for learners who have been identified through AEDY and where we would be seeking an alternative placement. At this point, we do not have any learners slated for this. particular program. We do have River Rock slots that we have secured on the secondary level, but this would be elementary slots, which again would be available in Chambersburg.
Okay. All right, so is there a motion to approve this agreement with River Rock?
Move to approve.
Second.
Any questions?
This is at Lurgan also.
This one would be at the Franklin Learning Center.
So like separate entities? Could we start our own consortium if we wanted to?
So the River Rock and New Story are owned by the same company. And so they are a private contractor for public educators or education in order to place students, either special education or AADY. We would have to apply for a separate license to essentially create our own. So at this point, we are electing to partner with News Story as well as River Rock, just like we've done on the secondary level.
Do we pay anything unless we have,
At this point, the way it works is that they have X amount of slots that we are going to reconvene in August and make a determination. I highly believe that there's one particular district that could probably assume most of the slots on their own. So, in other words, at this point, it's all like, in this particular case, this would have to be a elementary student who, had demonstrated behaviors, that may require, a hearing from a policy violator perspective. So, we have been very fortunate in the district that we have been able to service a lot of our students, through the Inspire program.
okay,
So this is just reflective of the need to have alternative resources for all the school districts in Franklin County. River Rock has a presence in various parts throughout the state. The closest one is Newville and Carlisle. So this is their attempt to come to Franklin County and to build the program here.
Any
this
other
contract
questions?
states that it's at Lurgan.
Oh, then I flipped them then.
Okay.
Is that, okay, so one, I apologize then. So one is at Lurgan, this one must be at Lurgan, I apologize. And then the other one, which is New Story, will be at Franklin Learning Center.
Any other questions for Dr. Stern? Okay. All right, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed?
Here we go.
Thank you. We hear you loud and clear, Ms. Zimmerman.
Thank you, and please have Mrs. Sanico call me when the meeting's over, because I'll tell her about my other vote.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next we move down to the agreement with Chambersburg School District for the ROTC program.
So I believe there's a typo there, so it should say NJROTC.
ROTC,
So-
yeah,
So
okay.
again, this is the partnership that I had discussed earlier this school year, where our students, our learners, as well as other learners from Franklin County will have the opportunity to be part of the JROTC program at the Chambersburg High School. I believe Dr. Kopko and Dr. McCallum are working on a schedule option. We're going to identify learners. We have the potential of sending up to 6, and the recommendation is that we would send 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and 2 juniors. Just like Career Tech, we would have to pay for those slots. But I do believe it's an outstanding opportunity for our learners to have this option. I know we tried very hard as a district to bring it here to the Waynesboro School District, and this is a great opportunity that we could at least have some of our learners participate and maybe eventually be able to expand.
Thank you. So the motion is to approve the agreement with Chambersburg Area School District regarding our junior ROTC program.
Oh, move.
Second.
Okay, any additional questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? You. Next, we move to the agreement with Franklin County School-Based Juvenile Probation Program.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. So this is a continuation of the agreement that allows the Waynesbury School District to have a partnership with Franklin County to provide a school-based juvenile probation officer in our schools.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the agreement with Franklin County School-Based Juvenile Probation Program for the 24-25 school year. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any questions? Yeah, Kim. Any questions on this program? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye. Oh.
Any opposed? Next, we will discuss the maidens wrestling team. Who will do the honors there?
So everybody was here most year last year, Mr. Pence, you weren't, but so the girls kind of did a club wrestling team last year. They had been wrestling kind of in the district at various levels, but not as an official team. So essentially, we're seeking your approval to approve of an official girls varsity wrestling program. And the costs associated with this would include the addition of 2 coaches, and then all the salaries and the WA collective bargaining agreement. And the Booster Club has been, supportive of us in the past, but we're seeking your approval for this moving forward.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the maidens wrestling team. Is there a motion?
Move to approve. Second.
Any questions? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any opposed? Congratulations to the maidens. Moving on to general fund budget, motion to approve the 2024 general fund budget. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, questions, comments?
I think I'll just comment, there's been no, excuse me, material changes since this was presented at last board meeting. So there is a tax millage increase built in, as was discussed. The difference will be made up with the unassigned general fund balance. Again, my goal has always been not to cut people or programs in the formulation of this budget. So we're already, I'll say, pretty tight compared to other school districts our size and in our county. I will say that as much as I joke about attending budget committee meetings, over the past several budget committee meetings, we have had no public comment. We've hadn't really had any feedback. So I think we have tried to at least put the word out in terms of here's what we're budgeting and where it's going. Talking about both the challenges and the additions that we've had in terms of both expenditures and, for lack of a better term, in terms of revenues. But just as a reminder, I think most of us know I work for a bank. We have a thing called profit margin. That thing does not exist for school districts. We are basically fully funded by taxpayers, whether that's local taxes, state taxes, or federal taxes. We are different from the way most of us kind of live and work, in the sense that, you sell goods and services, and there's a cost to it. We are a service in and of ourselves as a school district, providing education to our students. I'd be happy to answer any additional questions folks may have. I might punt over to Dr. Holtzman if it's too specific of a question. But this is our budget for the 24-25 school year.
Any questions, comments?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment. I wanted to thank Mr. Holtzman superintendents and also the budget committee for the great work they've done. I think you did a great job of getting information out throughout the year to the board and also to the public. Big thanks to the administration. I know they've worked hard to keep their budgets, very fiscally responsible, for the budget. I think, Mr. Holtzman does a great job of putting together a presentation that is easily understood and very outlined very clearly. And that's on the website. So if anyone, has any questions, they can access that, there. But to my knowledge, I don't believe we had anybody here at board meetings for public comment regarding budget issues either.
Eric, would you please speak just for the record on the homestead farmstead, who's eligible?
Oh, sure.
And the amount
Sure.
there, it's in the motion.
Sure, and that one might, they are kind of tied together. We have it as a separate motion between those two, but they are really tied together because the tax rate helps set the homestead farmstead exclusion, because that's just the way the formula is set up. But anybody who lives in their own home or their own farm can apply for the homestead or farmstead exemption. We have approximately 7,700 individual or families, residences that qualify for that in a given year. That number varies a little bit each year. The homestead farmstead money was flat for a very long time. It went up about 3 years ago, and it actually goes up again this coming year. So that does help a little bit in terms from a tax perspective. It does negate a little bit of any type of a tax change along with that. But again, anyone that lives in their own home, it's their primary residence. They're allowed to qualify for that. You apply one time, and then that's good until you move or you change residences. So what's nice about that process that we have in Franklin County, and again, the county's done a great job of this, they manage that for all the school districts, is once you've been approved, you're good to go. If you stay there 20 years, you get that same reduction. There was also too, we had talked about a senior citizen property tax rent rebate program at 1.2. And what's nice about that program is the income limits and the amount of exemption has actually been increased as well. We don't manage that here. That's managed by the state. But we do see a lot of individuals. The last year that the data is available for that was 2021. We'll probably have the 22 data available starting in July. And that was to our school district alone for that year was just over $1 million. So it was an average of about $772 that individuals could take against their taxes or their rent, depending on their income.
And that 4.1% that we're voting on, 1% could be deducted for homestead farmstead, correct?
Right, and that's just from an increase yeah, correct, approximately from an increase perspective. So, for example, for the median household income, that would be about a $19 increase, but the additional homestead farmstead is going up approximately $24. So it effectively negates 1%, or 1 mil would be another way to say that, correct?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments? Yeah, I'd just like to join you in thanking Dr. Holtzman and the Budget Committee for the work on the budget this year. As I look around, even outside of our district, there are several districts that are having issues when it comes to budgeting this year, to the point where they've had to lay teachers off or reassign people and increase class sizes even. So I think with what we have, we stretched our pennies as well as we could. I appreciate the effort of everyone involved. So let's see, let's go to any other questions or comments? Okay. All right, all those in favor, let's do a roll call vote on this one. So we'll start on this end.
Mrs. Zimmerman,
Zimmerman,
Yay.
Mrs. Straight,
Yay.
Dr. Royer,
Yay.
Mr. Marvin,
Yay.
Mr. Hamburger,
Yay.
Mrs. Miles,
Yay.
Mrs. Fortney,
Yay.
Mr. Pence,
Nay.
Mr. Smith.
yay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And next we move to
Elizabeth, when I clicked on my yay, it's,
I did it since I did the roll call.
okay.
Thank you, though.
Okay. Want to make sure.
okay, and Dr. Holtzman talked about this a little bit previously. Homestead, the 2024 Homestead and Farmstead Exclusion Resolution.
Yes, sir. So this is the homestead farmstead. This is basically a requirement that the district has to actually accept the gambling proceeds to be able to distribute that as tax relief to our local community. What that does is on the tax bill itself, it's actually a reduction of your assessed value. So it looks a little unique because it's actually, what is it, $1,256, if I have that right? Reduction of your actual property from an assessed perspective. What it really feels like though, from an actual tax bill perspective, is about $143 reduction. So I know, again, we have to show that on the bill as the assessed value, but what it feels like is $143 worth of relief. And again, what this does for the school district is effectively, instead of collecting this money from the individuals in our community, the property owners in our community, we're getting the money from the state. So it essentially reduces our real estate taxes overall. There's no financial benefit really for the district itself. The financial benefit are for the people that own and live in their own homes and farms.
So, motion is to approve the 2024-25 homestead and farmstead exclusion resolution.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, next, agreement with, is this Primero Edge, for the cafeteria point of sale system?
Yes, sir. Thank you. So we use a point of sale system today. It's another product, another company's product. However, we've been looking to try to change for a while. And we've been looking to change for a couple different reasons. One is they have a little bit of a lower cost associated with the transfer. If an individual wants to do a bank transfer or a credit card transfer, it's a little bit lower cost for that family to do that. There's also more flexibility in that system. So you could put money into one account for one child and then split it to multiple children in that account. Whereas today you actually have to pay that transaction fee with every child that's in the account in the current system. But this system here gives you the flexibility of putting the money in one account and splitting it. So theoretically, that should help save our, families a little bit of money. Premier Edge also is linked into our nutrition system. So we have to meet all the requirements for the National School Lunch Program. And we have to put all of our menus into this planning system. So on a weekly basis, it evaluates that data. So we actually been doing that in a version of Premier Edge now. And so this will tie in better from a menu perspective and a planning perspective. So we see a lot of benefits to it, and it's actually a slightly less cost than the system we're using today. So it's a kind of a benefit all around. And again, food service pays for the cost of this. And again, Mr. Erickson always helps us out with this. He could probably chime in if I'm making a mistake, but we can actually reuse most of the equipment that we have already from a technology perspective. And I believe this also reduces some of the technology work a little bit because it will be cloud-based versus having to put this on our own servers.
Type of, like, student information would that have access to, like, for privacy? What type of student data after?
Oh, at the
information
point of
will go
sale
on there?
system itself?
Point of sale, yeah.
Sure,
That's
so the
other-
cafeteria staff would have access to, they have the student's name, they would have account balances, things of that nature. Any specific allergies and things of that nature, I believe they also have access to that as well. So, but they have a very limited access to that because they just don't
Okay,
need.
yeah, because I'm thinking from like a cyber security standpoint.
But you're correct, yeah. Now, the systems do have to communicate between the student information system and the point of sale, but you're correct.
Is this card-based or how's it function?
In terms of, for
You
the
tap a
students, for
card
example,
or
the students can actually use a PIN code or they can use their badges. They have barcodes, I believe, on the back of the badges at certain levels, where they can use their PIN code. And what that does is it brings a picture up of the student and then they can work through them.
Oh, it brings a picture up so they know it's not somebody else trying to, okay.
Correct, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, Mr. Oldsman, for every
Each
deposit.
transaction.
Sure, let me. I can find that real fast. I think I put something in the Friday folder. Now I'm trying to put my hands on it.
I forget the transaction cost also, but I know it's cheaper than what it is now.
Yeah, it's very expensive now.
Yeah, it is. It's more expensive now. The cost doesn't go down significantly, but it is lower. Let's see here, I'm finding.
But they
it.
don't have to pay it per student. That was the
Right.
big.
So it is, right now it is $2.75 for a checking, $3.25 for a credit or a debit card. Under Premier Edge, our recommendation would be to there's 3 different tiers and you have to choose one path. We would recommend the path that is really limited up to $100 at a time, and that would be $2.25 per transaction. So it's a savings of anywhere from 50 cents to $1. But again, the other advantage is if you have multiple children, you can go ahead and spread that money out through multiple
You said
accounts.
there's a maximum of $100.
Under that path, if we choose the path that goes up to $500, the fee is $2.95. And it's a little bit more. And when we've looked at this, I think our averages are around probably in that $35 to $40 range that parents are putting on. So I really don't want to charge them more at up to $3 per transaction, because very few individuals would be really taking advantage of that $100 to $500 at a time, at least based on our
And
data
if
that we've
there's,
seen.
they have a credit, it carries to the next year.
It does. It carries to the next year. They can, in fact, obviously, we have students who graduate and we'll take that money and push that to the other siblings' accounts if they have a sibling. So there is an advantage there.
So if I understand it correctly,
Yes, sir.
per transaction is per deposit. So if somebody puts $30 in, they get charged $2 and.
They do. Yeah, because it's
10%.
going through that system. But it is an option. The other option, yeah, the other option, of course, is they can use cash or checks, and we accept those as well, both at the point of sale system, or you can send those cash or checks in with a student. We accept that. And of course, there's no cost or fee associated with cash or checks. Yeah. But as with many individuals, we've seen a strong trend to go to the online side versus cash and checks.
And what's an average meal cost?
Average meal cost.
$3, maybe?
Give me a second here. I have it. Sorry. We brought up a couple more files. So right now, of course, breakfast is free across, because that's free across the state. We would anticipate that's going to continue into the foreseeable future. So right now, the cost of a lunch is $2.80 for elementary, $2.95 for secondary.
Okay, so when you put in $30, you're getting 10 meals.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yes, sir.
of ice cream.
The other nice thing is, the
That's my-
parents can download the app. And they can see what the student is actually buying, and they can actually limit. So say they don't want them to buy ice cream, they can hit a button and they won't be able to buy anything additional other than, a meal at that point as well.
Parents can limit what students get, so they can limit for a la carte items and things of that nature, if they so desire.
Okay, thank you. Any other, let's make a motion, the motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Okay, any additional questions? Dr. Holzman regarding the Primero Edge?
So I think I just a comment. I think we see industry-wide when it comes to point of sale systems, a lot of businesses are passing these on to the consumers.
Yeah.
So I am for having a discussion at a later point about if we should or should not pass the transaction fee on to the parent depositing. But I think something to note is then we as a district, as in we as the food service and the district, and then the taxpayers are now absorbing that cost. And so then you have parents who are having their children pack or find alternatives than paying the cost for those fees. So I'm for having the discussion at a later point, but I think this is a trend that you see. You go to, a deli, a boutique, any of the farmers markets where you can do a point of sale. A lot of times they say you have to have a minimum of $10, or they just pass on the transaction fee. So I think that's worth having at a later point, but I don't think that is unique to our district in terms of a point of sale technology.
No, I agree.
Pay for convenience.
We've seen districts go both directions.
Mhm.
Some districts have absorbed the cost and just basically made that part of the meal price, increase the price and offset it. And some districts do it this way, so.
I worked in the concession stand at football season and soccer season, and you charge, if you wanted to use your card, you paid a little bit more, but the convenience and,
Mhm.
I watched a lot of people paying with cards, even though they're paying, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 cents more for that convenience.
What's cash?
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
I think just a comment, I appreciate you guys already doing the due diligence and looking for a new system and then finding one that does seek to have more advantages and lower costs both for the district and for parents. So
No, thank
I'm
you.
not ideal, but the fact that I think this was a comment that was brought up, and it was already a work in progress, so.
And it takes a long time to make these switches with this type of
Yes.
stuff. But again, I sincerely appreciate Mr. Erickson and his team, the
Thank you.
business
Thank you.
office and food service. Everybody actually did a site visit. The neighboring school district here actually was gracious enough to host us for a little while and show us the system that they had implemented this year. And so it was good to have that and get that experience as well. So it's very kind of them.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll vote. All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Move to the 24-25 generator preventative maintenance renewal. Dr. Holzman, is that you?
Yes, sir. Thank
Okay.
you. So annually, we have our generators service. These are the emergency generators in each building. They do all the life safety, and technology equipment. We're working on, some of them do coolers and freezers, some do not. We're working on that process as well. But what we do is we have two services, a major and a minor service conducted each year. We've used this company for at least 2 years now. I want to say going into 3. We did have a previous company that we used, but we've been more satisfied with this company at this stage. But we're requesting to go ahead and do another 1-year agreement.
Okay, so the motion is to approve the preventative maintenance agreement.
Moved.
second,
Questions?
You want the lights to go on when
Comments? All right, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Next, WAM's flooring project agreement with Spectra.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So at the previous board meeting, the board approved the asbestos project. So that part of it is to mitigate the flooring itself, get all the asbestos flooring out in those areas that we identified. This is putting the new flooring back in to replace, obviously, part of it. It's going through the CoStar system. They were doing this because they're running into some issues with getting flooring to be bid on because there's really very limited vendors now. So they're going through the CoStar's process, which is a state bidding process. They use prevailing wage. The architect actually met within the range that they expected. It was more towards the higher end, but it was closer to the range they anticipated for this part of the project as well. If you remember last time, the asbestos piece of itself actually was a little bit higher than the range. But this one came in a little bit lower than the range. If you notice in here, two items. One is this does come from the capital fund. The second item is actually put in there and ask you not to exceed that amount. That's what they bid on, because they also identified some flooring over in the gym area to replace. But pending us doing a project next year, we really don't want to put flooring into that area and then rip it right back out again next year. That doesn't look like it. So I think it's going to be about $11,000 lower because we won't have to do the flooring in those areas, but I want to confirm the numbers and the spaces with them yet. So again, just asking for not to exceed that amount, but knowing it will probably be a good $10,000 or $11,000 lower than that.
So the motion is to approve the CoStar's price flooring agreement with Spectra. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
why is it not including the auditorium at this time?
Sure, great question, ma'am. So as they've been working through the auditorium, they thought they had a good plan and an idea on how to do the auditorium. And then it started to get, I guess, slowed down a little bit between the architects and between the company there as to what the final outcome would look like in that space. As they're working through that, we do still want to do that project, but we didn't want that to hold up anything else. And our concern
Okay.
was to get the flooring in there.
We
Here
are
it is
still open
already.
to do it.
We still want to do it, yes. The good news is for the auditorium itself, there was no asbestos
Yeah, I
flooring in the
remember.
auditorium. So they're not going to remove something that's not going to be bare in there, which is good news. Now, may it happen a little bit later than planned? Potentially, yes. That could always exist, but we didn't want that to hold up the entire project. Just because they were still kind of working through that process a little bit and they didn't come to really a final position before we had time to put this on the agenda. That's a good question, though. Thank you.
Any other questions? Dr. Holzman? Okay. All those in favor?
I,
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Oh.
That's from Linda.
When the roof is leaking.
Okay, let's move to, let's see, okay. So the transportation agreements with Heck Myers.
Yes, sir. So, if you remember, this has been kind of a work in progress for, I don't know, 6 months, maybe longer. But that's not unusual. It's a very important agreement. It's an important contract. These are the two primary companies that provide our transportation for our students. We do have, typically two other agreements with non-public schools, that we'll bring to yours, but those are typically 1-year agreements, and they're structured a little differently because of the non-public schools. And there's some advantages and disadvantages for both of us to go that route with those two non-publics. But we've been working through this process for a long time. I would say, I would say the fact that they have sat down with us several times, they've met with us, talked about what's important to them. We've explained to them what's important to us. We've kind of worked through some different issues. Some of the items, for example, we've always paid over the index. And so they're asking us to continue paying over the index. It goes up at like basically another 1.5% the first year, and then the second year again, and then stays flat, going up for that third year going forward into the future. A lot of districts, though, in this stage are paying 95 to 100% capacity on vehicles at all times. And we're not doing that. We're still paying what the actual formula comes through in the capacity. So if the vehicle, except for vans, which are a little bit different, unique animal, but for our buses, we're not paying at 95% capacity regardless. We're paying what the actual capacity is. I know one of the issues we've had is that we have some days that we may not be transporting students during the regular school year. Again, they have their cost of their buses. So what we're asking to do in this agreement is if we have those non-travel days, to take those days, and they provide those days in the summertime then for us. So kind of a way to say we are getting something out of that, and it's not just payment to the contractors. And they recognize that, and they agreed to that very quickly, which was nice. A couple other items, which was we did have some specialized transportation that we need some help with, that previously it just didn't really make sense financially to do. Probably financially for them, maybe still not make sense, but they are willing to do that and provide that transportation to help us out. So that will be a nice blessing for next year, that we can have some better continuity with some of our specialized transportation that we're kind of doing in-house right now with multiple different people and drivers, and it's been a real challenge, unfortunately. So anyway, but again, I appreciate them sitting down with us. Again, we've used McLeaf's now for, I don't know how many decades, 30, 40, maybe 50 years. I'd hate to get it wrong, but it's been many, many decades. And Heck Myers, we've been using them since 2015.
So the motion is to approve a 5-year agreement with Heck Myers and McLeaf. Is there a motion?
No move.
Second.
Any questions for Dr. Holtzman?
Yes, I have some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Under that contract, when it talks about drug testing,
Mhm.
it does not specifically say that they will be drug tested upon an accident.
Okay.
It does say it goes by Pennsylvania standards, which I assume are like CDL standards,
They
which
would
is
be.
a drug,
Right.
but I mean, do we need to say that in there? Because I think that's important.
I agree with you. I mean, we certainly could, that's something we could certainly amend and put in there, because again, if the state law requires us to do it anyway for or requires them to do it anyway for an accident, just putting that language in there just to clarify that, that would certainly be something we could do.
Make me feel better. Second thing, is there any differences in those two contracts? Are they exactly the same? We pay the same to both?
They should be exactly the same.
I
If there's,
thought
if there's
they
a
did.
difference in there, it's a mistake on my part.
Okay.
But they should be the same.
I read through it and I didn't see any difference.
I got a little nervous there for a minute, Ms. Strike.
And my other question is, under the van transportation, it
Mhm.
said, may be equipped with cameras. I would prefer personally that all vehicles have cameras, just my opinion.
No, it's a good question. That's more of a, it's something that's a district. I think the contractors are willing. It's been more of a, purchasing them and putting them in type situation. But certainly we could go down that path and look at doing that.
Were the vans, what are they used for? Or special ed? kids?
They're used for primarily specialized transportation and some of the non-publics that
Yeah, I
they do.
really think we need to have cameras in all of those vehicles.
I would think from
Especially
a
the-
liability perspective, they would want cameras also.
Yeah, I think
if
it's
they-
actually helped at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think if
Help.
they don't, they're not really thinking about the big picture. not the same world
Nope,
as it was.
that was
several
my
years ago.
2 cents. I'm done.
No, and again, that's a great question. We can go ahead and certainly look at that and look at what that would take. Also tied into that, we've been looking at the swing arm cameras where they have, if you pass the vehicles, that they would get a fine and things of that nature. We've been looking at trying to, if we get into an agreement with the company to structure it so that they actually pay for and purchase all of the interior cameras, because some of our cameras are 10, 15 years old. They fail. They cost several grand to replace those cameras and the recording devices that are in there. So there's a potential, if we go down that path of structuring it so that we would replace that. And that could be an opportunity maybe to help cover some of those costs, but we can certainly look at those options. Yes, ma'am.
I meant to ask this, several years ago and I had just forgotten and it came up again. I'm just concerned that we don't have an EpiPen available to the driver. Because I do think there could be a situation where they might need an EpiPen for a situation where it would not be a student with a known allergy. Like for instance, a bee flies in the bus window and somebody doesn't know that they're allergic to, bee sting. That's just one thing, but I for the cost of it,
Mhm.
I just think that I don't believe it would be that expensive. But one instance certainly makes it.
That's certainly something we can take a look at, ma'am. And I think it's probably even something that we can get off of a bid list if we can look at it from that perspective, which would help.
Well, since we have them in every school,
Mhm.
available, and I believe, I don't know if I think that like the phys ed teachers, I think that,
They have the EpiPens out at phys ed. I think
just if that student needs it.
But I mean, I know that we've worked hard with trying to make sure that our bus drivers have a better understanding of medical needs. Would require then the bus drivers to the EpiPen training.
It says that in here.
Yeah, and then I know we also talked with the contractors that under Act 55, there are additional requirements. Roll it all up. I know Officer Gordon sent me an email today about, I guess, what 2 trainings the drivers are going. At 55.
I know what situation we were talking about. A question came up at some point, I don't remember how far away, I believe it was the high school, how far away some of the gym classes are in the stadium. If a student had an episode, do they have enough time to go back into the school and get the EpiPen and get back out? Go to the stadium. I mean, I'm really not familiar. I only experienced it one time at Fairview, and it didn't look to me like you had a whole lot of time.
I know, I'm trying to think. I was gonna say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think we now have an AED mounted in the stadium. And I think there's a potential that we could probably put either the EpiPen and or Narcan in there as well, maybe, if they're not already in there.
That goes
Okay,
bad.
we'll
Yeah.
follow up, Dr. Royer,
Is
but
that
those are
checked?
good questions,
If
huh?
it goes bad, is it checked?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they did announce it, that they had one at the stadium, I think.
Yeah, I think we received a free one, I believe, through a grant. We just had to buy the case to put it in there, so.
He applied several years in a row and he finally got the grant, so.
But we could certainly look at that, and again, even if you had a driver that was uncomfortable with an EpiPen, certainly having it available for a student who forgot theirs that day, and I think, I can't remember the age now, but for school code, but students at a very young age can now actually carry their own EpiPen.
What about, are they required to have CPR training at all?
Bus drivers?
That's a good I don't have an answer for you on that one. Yeah, but I can find out.
So there's been a lot of additions. Do we need to come back to this, or are we able to, if we're able to add these into the contract as an addendum at a later date?
Just my perspective, certainly, any language that we add in there in terms of CDO and drug testing after an accident, if it's already part of school code, putting it on there like as an addendum or adding it to it really shouldn't do anything, in sense of it doesn't change the agreement itself because it's just stating something that's already in school code or in Pennsylvania law. The other items in terms of cameras, EpiPen, and CPR training, again, we have that flexibility as a district to do that. So I think that we could go ahead and provide that information or provide that equipment to them. I don't think that it would actually change the agreement at all itself. Because again, we're telling them we would potentially put cameras in vans. We could tell them to go ahead and here's an EpiPen to go ahead and put it in there with, along with your other items. I just don't see any risk or in terms of the contract itself, from my perspective.
Agree with you, Dr.
Are all these bus drivers CDL certified?
For the buses, yes, sir, but not for the vans.
If you're CDL, you go through a drug test. And you get randomly tested.
But I'd like it to say that in here. Because it doesn't say that in here. Doesn't say that we have them tested.
Yeah, and certainly we could put that in there. I mean, certainly if that is part of a motion, I think that would not be an issue at all. And I can't imagine the bus contractors have any concern with that, especially if it's school code. So.
So, let's see. So let's go with the motion. Because okay, so the motion is to approve the 5-year contract with the addition of the language of necessary drug testing. That addition of that language. So
What you said, yeah.
right. Well, so do we had first and second, do we have any other questions or comments? Drug testing requirements or requirements per state, or let's just say with the addition of drug test language included in the contract.
Or they don't do it anyway.
What else did you add in?
It was just, with this, it's just the language about the drug testing.
Uh-huh.
The other items are things that can be sort of.
On a
we-
school
we can
district.
know the school district anyway, so it's not sort of an agreement with the bus company per se. This is sort of that agreement piece.
And the cameras,
Yeah, that would probably be, it's already in the agreement that they would install, that we would have them installed in the vans. So it would be more of a district doing the purchase itself of those cameras and installing them in the van. We typically have always purchased that equipment.
it says maybe, they may be equipped, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like that, maybe.
So the motion currently reads.
Comments or questions? So all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I just want to comment, Mr. Wright, it talks about vans may be equipped with video recording devices based on the request of the district. So if we're requesting it, they will need to honor that. So I feel that, I mean, I understand how you're reading that, but,
Well,
like-
if we're requesting it, why wouldn't we just change the contract to say? Changing it to add the drug testing language, why wouldn't you just change it to say that cars, cameras in all buses and vans?
Sure, I mean, again, we have not priced that out, Dr. Royer, at this point. Just historically, we hadn't done that at this stage. And again, we are looking at some other camera options along with the swing arm systems. But historically, we haven't done that. Don't hold me to this, but the cameras are probably 3, 4, 5,000 with the recording equipment on there and such. So, probably, I don't know, 25 vans, give or take. So it wasn't a small cost, but it is a nice advantage. When you have that equipment in there, it does help solve some problems pretty quickly. And it can save yourself at the end of the day for a district.
Dr. Holtzman, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know, audience as well, that there's some of our vans, if they're not necessarily equipped with video, there are paraeducators that ride on the van as well, so there would be another adult. I know that's not the same as a camera. But
That
I
makes a
mean,
big difference though.
but I feel that, in our vans where we are, concerned, additional issues, there another paraeducator on.
So we currently can have our educators on the vans and not having to pay the Heckmeyer's fee. Or we no
Correct.
longer use their aides?
Sometimes we use the aids, but it's been more of a switch over to district aids versus.
I didn't know, that's great, because it's very expensive to use their aid. Right. I did not know that. That's great.
Yeah, so we've been fortunate that over the years where we've been allowed to expand the hours of special education paras, some of their individual responsibilities is to ride the van in the morning or in the afternoon. So it's just an extension of their day.
Well, and if it can't be done all at once for the vans, I think that, I would trust that you could identify specific vans going to specific schools. There may be more of an opportunity for something to go wrong.
Sure. And again, my apologies. We just historically had not gone down that path, but it's not a bad path to go down.
Well, if you think about it, 5-6 years ago, we weren't transporting a lot of these other alternative places.
Very true. Or longer distances. And
Right.
things of that nature.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I believe I'm correct in saying that if it is an alternative placement, say like River Rock, there are cameras on those vans.
That we have put some devices in some vehicles, yeah. Mr. Erickson's helped us out putting a couple of those in. Not the same setup as some of our buses and such, but something in there to provide some level of safety.
Erickson loves to install cameras.
All right. Any additional questions? So let's go to, we didn't do a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
Next, we move to, just for discussion, community eligibility provision for Fairview Elementary School. Yes.
Yes, sir. Sorry.
back to you.
So we put some information in your Friday folder, I think, at least maybe once, maybe if not twice. So community eligibility provision, what this is depending on the level of free and reduced population in a school, the state will give you a multiplier to use for funding purposes. The magical number is typically 60%. Once a school district achieves 60% in a building, specific building, then if you go with CEP, what you can do is you basically get almost 100% of your funding. It's very close to 100% at 60. Right now, Fairview is the only building that really financially this would make sense at this stage. So effectively what would happen is for minimum of 3 years, because the program runs for 3 years. So even if the numbers were to dip in year 2 or 3, you still can run the program for 3 years, that you could provide free lunches for the students. Just as a reminder, right now, all of our students are receiving free breakfast. That's a state program that has been funded now. All students who were paying reduced rates for their meals, that's now being funded by the state as well. So those are not there. Those individuals' families are not paying the 40 cents now that you would typically have with a lunch. And then, of course, anybody who's free and reduced in any of our buildings receives a free lunch as well. So what this would do, though, is it would actually apply to Fairview and would apply for all students in that building.
Okay. Any questions about this
Are we
provision?
going to pursue this for Fairview or are we just thinking?
Yeah, well, so a great question. So again, this is something kind of new for us, so to speak, as a district. Many other districts in the state do participate. A lot of districts in the state have started it this way. They've looked at buildings where it makes the most sense financially and started the program in that direction, maybe with only one building or with a couple buildings, and then expanded it potentially to a larger population in their schools. There is a model where you can use grouping, so you can try to take schools with higher free and reduced populations and lower free and reduced populations and group them together to see if it works. We've tried that a couple different ways. It just doesn't come close to working financially. The losses would be $20, $25 or $30,000 a month. So it just wouldn't make sense for us, unfortunately, in that case. So the idea is we have until June 30th to apply. So theoretically, depending on board direction, we would bring this back probably at the June meeting and ask for approval to move forward with that.
Now, who does this lower the cost for? School district or the parent?
Parent.
Parent.
Yeah, for us, it's pretty much flat for us. I mean, we're getting money now from students, plus we're getting, every student that pays, we actually get some money also from the state and federal government as well for every paid lunch. So you get money for free lunches, you also get money for some paid lunches, a lower amount, of course. But at the end of the day, we would be getting then all the money effectively from the state and from the federal government in this case.
Seems to me that every April 15th, we send a bunch of money to the state and we might as well get some back.
It would help a little bit with, some of our debt that we have for, you know, it's part of the National School Lunch Program. We have some debt for some families out there on the books that would help students in that situation because we don't allow individuals and families to go into debt for à la carte items, only it's for regular meals themselves. So obviously that would help a little bit from that perspective as well. But you're correct, Mr. Hamburger, this would be a benefit really for the families.
And there are other schools in Franklin County currently participating.
There are, yes, yeah,
There are?
other districts
Okay.
in Franklin County do and have done for a while. And again, other ones have implemented it this way where they started with 1 or 2 schools that qualified and then typically, unfortunately, again, based on free and reduced populations, as those have increased over time, then it becomes more cost feasible to do it.
What's the downside? I don't see any downside. Except someone at Maui complaining that they gotta pay
Yeah, that's right.
because they make more money.
Or maybe a negative connotation from kids that are at Fairview that are poor schools, so we're getting,
Yeah, but,
I mean,
and
it's,
that is my concern, but if you
Okay.
look at the percentages, I mean, the percentages are listed in the document and there was a way that we were trying to magically make it available in more than one school.
right.
But that doesn't work out mathematically at this point. So, yeah, I mean, that is the potential
So,
concern.
potential concern,
Um,
yeah.
You know, the interesting thing is, you know, a number of years ago when we were asked to stop what is referred to as the lunch shaming. Like, you know, so if a child does not have money, it's not like we can deny them the lunch. And we,
Right.
at one point you got the, I guess, the cheese sandwich or the
But
peanut
now
butter
they have to
jelly.
get the meal.
So, and, in terms of notifying parents, in the secondary level, we are permitted to
And say something.
say
very
something
Confidentially, so to speak.
discreetly, but in the
Discreetly,
elementary
better word.
world,
Can't, yeah.
no.
Makes
So,
sense.
You can send letters home, but
You
that's
can
all
send
you
letters
do.
home.
They have to be sealed.
I have something I was gonna bring up in board comments, but since we're talking about cafeteria lunches, have we made it very publicly aware that our parents know that kids can get free lunches over the summer at Fairview and Summit View? Is that true?
It is true. I'm just trying to think of how much we have, not so
I'm
sure
not- yeah,
communicated.
I'm not-
I want to say
Yeah.
the building principals, I think. probably
Children under the age of
that.
18 can go to
and
the
it's been
schools and
it's
get
been a number of years that
free
they've offered
lunches.
that.
I just
He's
wonder,
got
since
signs.
maybe
all
people are
around
watching
Summit
that
View and Fairview.
Mhm.
Right on the
people
corner.
know that.
Yeah, we can do a better job at maybe promoting that. And
I've
this
seen it
ties
on
in-
Facebook, but
Ties into summer school.
okay. And I'm sure there's a time as to when it's available, but
Right.
we have 2 schools in the district that the kids can go get lunches all summer, so.
And
That's a good
speaking of
thing.
that, Mrs. Miles, too, what's really cool about this year is that we are actually, we're partnering with, there's like a mobile book library that's going to be going to the buildings of Fairview and Summit View.
Oh, that's
To
wonderful.
provide a book
school book
availability to those students that are, participating in that. So, yeah.
Good.
So are you looking at, this is an informational item for this evening and then it'll be on the June.
Right, but based on kind of feedback and, you know, if you have any questions, please start with Dr. Turner Hine and then we can try to answer those questions. But I think that would be the direction potentially to bring that back to the.
I mean, I
meeting.
kind of agree with Mr. Hamburger, like, I'm not seeing a downside. You know, and it's great,
this,
news for,
yeah.
you know, some of those families. And unfortunately, down the road, we might have other schools that.
Or we can use the grouping model and it, depending on outcome, you know, the models, they actually have a financial formula model you can try to put through there and anticipate increase in participation, because obviously sometimes your participation rate increases. So we might be able to use some data from Fairview, and if participation increases enough, it might provide some opportunities for grouping in future years.
You would think it would. You would think it would.
Okay, any other questions or comments for Dr. Holzman? Okay. Thank you, sir, for that information. Oh.
Approve, or we're not voting.
Oh,
sorry.
no, it's just for discussion. It's
Got
not. Yeah, it's jumping in. Get to that. So let's move to, let's go to treasurer's report for April and then purchase orders and bills for payment. Dr. Holzman.
Yes, sir. Just we have the treasurer's report for your review and then purchase orders and bills for payment, general fund and cafeteria fund, along with the requisitions. I will let you know that in the next board meeting, we're going to have a lot of requisitions that will start coming through for July 1. So
Oh.
just to give you a heads up, so please allocate a little time if you want to review lots of requisitions. Our secretaries have been very busy. We always ask them to start putting them in the system to get them ready. Then if anything changes through the budgeting process, we kick them out. But a lot of our secretaries don't necessarily work all summer long, so they're already putting items in the system out there. So when we bring those to you, we will bring them, and they will be many, fortunately or fortunately, but
When do they become available to us?
we will probably have them here very soon because we just passed the budget. So what we could do is we could start making them available here very soon, right after probably in the next week or so.
That might be helpful.
Yeah, because I think you're going to need more than just the weekend to take a look at.
I'm not, are the documents always available Friday? Yeah.
Honestly, the documents are always available as soon as they're turned over to me by the business office.
Okay.
So sometimes you could.
Well, that's what he's saying, that he'll start. We just let us know by email that they're in there.
Sure, and maybe what we could do this, and again, because they don't all, I don't want to wait until they all come in, because I don't want to throw that, requirement to look at them all at one shot. Maybe what we can do is put them in groupings, kind of based on when we've received, and maybe even every 5 days or something like that between now and the next board meeting. That way we can tell you, here's group 1 is out there, group 2, group 3, et cetera. Something along those lines. That might make it a little bit easier for you to take it and look at them instead of looking at a couple thousand at one shot. You could sit down and look at them in small groups. I don't know if that would work better or not for the board, but.
I don't always look real closely at a bunch of these, but I'm looking at the cafeteria one and I see 2 lunch account refunds. Is that like graduating seniors? The parents get their money back if there's still money in the account?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, and
Okay.
actually, and that's, unfortunately, the state or the federal government has changed the rules on the meals on being able to, it used to be we were very easily able to talk to people and get the money to shift it to other students or
Right.
to pay, maybe do a donation. And now, if we're unable to get somebody to respond, we actually have to ultimately turn it over to unclaimed property, even if it's one.
Right.
Yeah, the sheets.
And there's, to me, there's no de minimis amount. I mean, even if it's a penny, you have to turn it over, which you can imagine the work.
So if they're
our-
on
the
here, they're
district.
just getting a check. You've cleared that with these people and,
Mhm.
okay, well,
They
that's
request
great.
the
What
check,
if you
yeah.
don't catch the check?
Which is good, right?
Yeah, well, yeah.
It'd be nice if we can encourage them to come back next year and eat, but it's.
Okay, so, do we have a motion to approve treasurer's report and purchase orders and bills for payment?
So,
Second.
Any additional questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you.
We're almost there, people. Okay, so we move to Clayton Cabinet comments. Anyone?
Talk about acres of play.
Go ahead.
Hey, go ahead. You took the awesome photo.
No, it was really cool this morning. We had the opportunity to go over to Fairview and there was a kind of a sign reveal for Acres of Play for Miss Acres who passed, but it was really neat. All the kiddos came out and there was it was also just, it kind of just flowed right into the field day that was orchestrated over there at Fairview. So and it was a nice sign and nice comments made about Miss Acres, and it's all part of the playground and getting out and getting healthy and moving around. And I want to give kudos to like all of our building principals for everybody goes all its activities, field days and stuff. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure most of you do, there's a lot of actually preparation, organization, and management that goes into those field days and all the activities that happen, and making sure that everything's lined up, transportation for field trips and just all that stuff, and working with parents, volunteers, PTO folks. And so there's a lot that goes into these last days with all the different activities. I also like to just share this real quick. Yeah, we're sitting here just reflecting and talking a lot about a lot of business here tonight, but ultimately, and not that you all need this reminder, but for me, it was just nice. All the business here really reflects back to those who are sitting in the seats, right, in our buildings, the kids, the learners, right. And I had an opportunity I know Dr. Sternheim and Dr. Holtzman and others had the opportunity to be a part of some of the mock interviews the other week here with Mr. Fisher's class, and kudos to him for organizing all of that. But it was really cool. Like one of the questions was name a time you took leadership role in leading something. And these are freshmen, right? But just had the opportunity that this freshman young lady said, well, I had a sleepover at my house one time. and a lot of girls there. And my dad wasn't home, and the house was really messy. And she said, we knew he was coming home, and what I did was I assigned the girls all a room to clean up the room. And by the time my dad got home, all the house was cleaned up because I took leadership. And I tell you what, though, what was so cool about it was like, I'm sitting there, and it's like, this is this girl's experience. She has a mom and dad and friends and hobbies and dreams and goals and aspirations to do things. And it kind of just goes back to the whole child piece. It really just meeting these kiddos. I mean, they're freshmen, meet high school, they're kids still. I mean, meeting them where they're at, not taking it for granted, but meeting them where they're at. And I just thought that was pretty cool experience.
I wonder if that was a bunch of guys that they clean up. I doubt it.
Yeah, I didn't dig any deeper in the question.
I want to come back to it.
Any other, comments, Clayton, comments?
Nick's not there, but I wanted to, oh,
There
Nick,
he is.
Nick, do you want to talk about the computers at all? The donation?
Yeah, I was waiting. I just grabbed something off of the printer. Yeah, I did want to let everybody know that about a few weeks ago, we were notified that our weather bug camera did go down. We did obtain a quote, and it was kind of expensive. And I did talk with ABBC 27, and they are willing to donate a new camera for that replacement. So we are working through that process right now. And also, we did get 65 computers donated from Letterkenny as well last week. So.
Hey, Dr.
Thank you.
Sherlock, I've got to
Great,
say one
good.
more
Yeah.
comment, Mr.
Yes,
Smith.
sir. Yes,
We're really excited too. I mean, school is ending, obviously. Everybody knows it's Thursday and Friday. But beginning next week, summer learning kicks off already. Can you believe that, right? We got tons of adult learners, our teachers and so forth, jumping in right away next week to take advantage of the summer learning opportunities that we have provided for them and gather together. June 4th, next Tuesday, totally psyched. iReady, big training day kicked off. Most of our elementary folks are signed up. And again, lots of summer learning opportunities. I appreciate all the teachers, the administrators, and others who have volunteered to lead and some of these sessions that we have lined up. So we're excited about that too. So.
Thank you, sir. All right. Okay, board comments, anyone?
I have one. We talked tonight about how students can have deficits in their cafeteria funds. And they still get a lunch even though they have deficits. Well, the WASH's class of 1974 is celebrating their 50th reunion in July. And they have sent letters out to their classmates. They want to collect money to contribute to this cafeteria deficit. And they've put that out on Facebook. They've invited other people to join them, even if they're not in the class of 74. And they're gonna keep a running total of what they collect. But I just think it's wonderful that they're thinking of our students and our school district and wanna, whittle away at that deficit fund.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Yep.
Anyone else from the board?
I have one.
Yes. ma'am.
I know there was some discussion about showing movies in school at the academic committee. But I, as a parent, appreciated getting a letter home that they were going to share, watch a full-length movie, the end of school, but I had the option if I wanted to opt out, which I didn't want to opt out, but I think it's nice to know that your students are doing that. And there was a reason for it rather than kids just going home and saying, all we did today was watch a movie. So I appreciate that. I don't know how much, if you made that happen or whatever, but thank you.
Any other board comments? If nobody, no one?
We're
Yes.
scheduled to be at the high school
Mhm.
for the next board meeting. However, we are in the process of confirming the number of families and learners that will be present, because I know it's a lot of work for Nick and his team to set up at the high school. So we're thinking that we may be able to host it here, depending on the numbers, but I would definitely follow up with the board as soon as I know for certain. But it's scheduled for the high school at this point. But if it's a smaller group, a smaller crowd, because we recognize they oftentimes leave after the presentation anyway, and then we're
Right.
in the auditorium. So
Mhm.
we're gonna follow up on that as well.
Okay, I just wanted to say, just, thank you and kudos to the entire district, support staff, teachers, staff, administrators, central office folks, people who, bus drivers, everybody that makes everything happens here. We've had a good year. And, also special kudos to WASHES, who will have another group of young people going out into the world in the effort that it takes. The all hands on deck on a daily basis that needs to go on in the high schools because some kids are like you have to almost push them over that finish line. And so there are people in that building that help to do that on a daily basis, and we appreciate that, and we're looking forward to celebrating with them on Friday. Okay, thank you. Let's go to, after we adjourn, we have to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter, but other than that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?